What the hell is Big freaking doing right now? I'm getting kind of scrawny. Keep talking about doing all this cardio. What in the world is going on with Big freaking Neil? Well, here's the scoop. I shifted my goals from just straight powerlifting to more fat loss goals right when gyms closed initially. My reasoning being, with what I have available to me at home, I'm not going to get stronger. That is not a possibility. But I'm not someone who can just not have a goal for a while and just sit around and not have at least something that I'm actively chasing and improving at. So I figured with what I have at home, even though I can't really get stronger, I can still maintain muscle mass well enough to effectively lose some body fat. So over the course of quarantine, I lost my COVID-15 instead of gained my COVID-15, which I was pretty happy with. Went from roughly 250 or close to it down to about 235. So I was pretty happy with that. And I kind of got bit by the bug a little bit. Started to see some more muscle definition. Started to wonder how lean I could actually get and what exactly that would look like. I haven't been shredded since I competed back in, oh man, was it 2016, I think? I've never gotten back to single-digit body fat since. So I got curious. That was my next goal was let's see if we can get to single-digit body fat. Let's see what that looks like. Then started talking to some bodybuilders at my gym, and this little seed got planted in my head. When I competed the first time in 2016, I think, I competed in heavyweight bodybuilding. I weighed in at 211, I believe, the night before. And a couple things didn't go quite according to plan. It was my first show, so it was to be expected. But I wasn't super dialed in as far as conditioning. I was definitely single-digit body fat. I was definitely 7 to 9% body fat, somewhere in that realm. But to win that show, I needed to be 4. And I definitely wasn't. So that was the biggest thing. I also didn't fill out really well. I was over-depleted over the course of peak week, and then when I tried to fill back out, I was just sort of flat and stringy. So I ended up looking smaller on stage than I really was. And in fact, I remember training. I remember actually eating like a normal human amount of carbohydrates and then training after the show and being so much more vascular and so much crazier looking than I was on stage. So that was just, that was just a beginner rookie mistake on my part of not really knowing how to fill back out sufficiently or over depleting leading up to the show. So anyway, all of these things sort of got planted in my brain, and I started to think about potentially competing again. And I looked into, instead of bodybuilding, Classic Physique and what the height and weight requirements are for that. And for my height, which is 5'10", the weight limit is 197. So I'm thinking to myself, if I was 210 when I competed the first time and not as conditioned as I should have been, then 197 is probably going to be about perfect for me. So that seed continued to grow and take root. And long story short, I am officially 11 weeks out from the Idaho Muscle Classic. I don't even know the name of my show. But it's in Idaho, and it's on November 7th. And I've decided that I'm going to document my progress and my prep weekly with video updates like this one. So this is 11 weeks out right now. I'm going to give you guys my caloric intake and my macronutrient breakdown, if anybody cares about that. I'm going to sort of lay out roughly what I'm doing training-wise in terms of how much cardio, what my training split looks like, all that stuff. I figure some of you might find it interesting just to see how a powerlifter goes about prepping for a Classic Physique show, and how that transition is going to go. And even more so than that, though, just having a record of this for myself, having 11 weeks worth of videos leading up to this show where I can document exactly what I'm doing. That way I can continue to make improvements, you know, in the future if I do decide to continue down this road. Okay, so let's start with nutrition. Calories for 11 weeks out. We are at 2,700 calories. Macros are 300 grams of protein. I know that is a ridiculously high amount. That's based on the research that shows that eating up to 1.3 grams per pound can help maintain muscle mass while in a pretty steep calorie deficit, which I am at 2,700 calories. Carbohydrates, 170 grams. Fats works out to be about 91 grams of fat. Now, I'm doing one refeed day per week. That's going to be my Fridays. And this is, okay, so this is another big difference between this prep and my last prep. My last prep, I was doing weekly cheat meals, crazy cheat meals, where I would go out and order like 3 dinners and eat them all myself. And I don't know how much it really hurt me, because it was only once a week, but it wasn't helping me. I was consuming so many calories from fat. And now that I know more about the science behind a refeed and leptin and minimizing dietary fat intake to maximize carbohydrate intake to actually get the hormonal benefits of a refeed, I'm definitely going to do things differently this time around. So, refeed calories, this is just on Fridays. Refeed calories are going to be 3,600. Still 300 grams of protein, no more than 40 grams of fat, and I believe it works out to 510 grams of carbohydrates, which is nuts. That I love Fridays. That's going to be my day. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to eat pretty much all the same meals, but with double the rice. I'm eating white rice as my main carbohydrate source. Feels really good on my belly. It's easy for me to digest it, so that's not an issue. It's easy for me to eat it even an hour before I train, and I feel like it's digested, and it doesn't weigh me down at all. It's super light. My body responds well to it. So I'll eat double the rice in all my meals throughout the day, and then my last meal will be a quote-unquote controlled cheat. I believe my plan is to do sushi. A lot of bodybuilders do that for their refeed, because if you pick the right kind of rolls that aren't, you know, deep fat fried or stuffed full of cream cheese, if you pick the lighter rolls, they're super low in fat because it's just lean fish, and they're super high in carbs because they're wrapped in, you know, like 1/8 of a cup of white rice per little chunk. So I'm just gonna chow down on some sushi every Friday night. I'm really excited about that. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do any cheat meals where I just eat whatever the hell I want for sanity's sake. I don't think I will, unless I hit a wall mentally, and every third week for that last meal on Fridays I have pizza or something that's not a typical refeed food. I haven't decided yet. At least for now, that's not the plan. The plan is strictly sticking to these refeed macros to actually get the benefit from it. And I love sushi. I'm a big fan of sushi, so that's still going to feel like a cheat, and it's still going to give me a little mental break from eating foods that I'm not crazy about. So yeah, training-wise, and then I'll wrap this up for this week. So cardio is looking like 45 minutes every morning. I don't necessarily need to be doing that much right now. I just really, really like it. I like what that does. I've talked about my morning routine before because I'm obsessed with it. But I really like getting up at the crack of dawn every morning, driving to the gym, doing 45 minutes of cardio. It just sets my mind right for the whole rest of my day. Even if I weren't in bodybuilding prep right now, I would still be doing cardio this way, just because it's had a huge benefit in every other area of my life. So yeah, cardio is awesome. It sucks, but it's awesome. At some point, I will be adding in a second cardio session on certain days, and it will likely be post-training. So I'll do my longer 45-minute session early in the morning. After I train, after I do my weight training workout, then I will do a shorter, like 20-minute cardio session at some point on certain days, not every day. And that will be based on how I'm looking over the course of the next 3-4 weeks. And that just gives me another step to take to ramp things up if I do feel like progress is slowing or I'm plateauing. Yeah, so that's what cardio looks like right now. Training wise, my workouts are very different from my powerlifting workouts. I'm essentially on a body part split, but structured such that I'm still hitting every muscle group twice a week, except for my chest. The reason being weak points versus strengths, right? My chest has never had a problem being big. I am a large, an ample-bosomed man, let's put it that way. So, and that also comes from being a powerlifter and doing a whole bunch of really heavy bench press for years. So, my shoulders and traps, in relative to my chest, are more of a weak point. So, shoulders and traps are getting hit 2 really solid sessions every week. So is my back. My chest is only getting hit once, and then I'm doing 2 leg workouts. I'm not scheduling rest days right now, guys. Again, I could rest every Sunday and it would be fine, and I would still make progress. This is another thing that is just mental, where I really enjoy training 7 days a week right now, and I'm so in tune with how my body's feeling at any given time, just from years of practice of trying to listen to it and sometimes ignoring it, that my body will tell me when it needs a rest day, and I will listen to it, and I will take a full rest day when the time comes. I think that makes more sense anyway, to just train intuitively, not based off the day of the week, but based off how you're feeling. I'm not saying that everyone should go and work out 7 days a week. I wouldn't recommend that to any of my clients. But I am not a moderation kind of guy. I'm very extreme with literally everything I do. And sometimes it backfires, but more often than not, it gets me where I want to be at a faster rate. So that's the game plan. The workouts themselves are sort of a mix of high volume training. I am doing a lot of higher rep sets, especially with the accessory exercises. The only thing that I'm really doing heavy, two things. There are two exercises that I'm really still doing in a heavy, low rep range. Like we're talking 3 to 5 reps. And that is my deadlift. I'm still doing heavy triples, heavy fives. That is a lift that I want to continue to train heavy to maintain overall strength. And the power lifter in me still wants to have a really good strength to body weight ratio. As my body weight continues to drop, if I can maintain my deadlift, or at least keep it from tanking, then I'm going to be that much stronger as a power lifter. So I'm keeping that relatively heavy, again, based on how I'm feeling on the day. The other thing that I'm keeping fairly heavy is my barbell flat bench. Same thing, I'm doing sets of 3 to 5 and doing a higher volume walk down set where I'll drop the weight and I'll crank out 8 to 12 reps. But for at least a couple sets, every time I do flat bench, I am doing a heavy triple or a heavy 5. So keeping that relatively heavy too. The reason being, bench press is always the thing that takes the biggest hit when you're losing weight. It already has for me, at least a little bit. So I want to maintain that as much as possible as well. Again, keep that strength to body weight ratio high. Everything else is pretty much straight bodybuilding stuff. I'm sticking pretty close to an 8 to 15 rep range on everything else. Squats, I'm keeping the weight high, or at least moderate, but for bigger sets of 8, sets of 10, sets of 12. But I'm still keeping the weight as high as I can at those rep ranges. So intensity is still very high. Yeah, I mean, that about covers it, guys. So if you have specific questions for me regarding my prep, or anything that I've said in this video that confuses you, which could be a fair amount, shoot me a DM. Feel free. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. If there's anything that you specifically would like me to cover in these weekly videos, I am happy to do that as well. So message me those suggestions, ask me your questions, and I will see you guys at 10 weeks out. See you later.